Here is scene 1 expanded to ~1000 words without headings, exactly as you requested. The school smelled of old paper, detergent, and the faint sweetness of crayons. For most people, Brighton Elementary after 8 p.m. was an empty building, silent, harmless, forgettable. But for Daniel Hale, it was a refuge. A place where no one asked questions about his past, where no one saw him as anything more than a janitor with tired eyes and a quiet way of moving. A place where he could simply work, sweep the floors, and keep his daughter safe. Lily sat at her usual spot in the cafeteria, legs dangling from the metal chair, humming to herself as she colored a picture of a horse. Every few minutes she looked up to check if her father was still there. Daniel always gave her a reassuring smile, and she always went back to her drawing. It was their routine, their small anchor in a life that had too much drifting in it. But tonight, something tugged at the edges of Daniel's instincts, those old, buried instincts that once kept him alive in places far more dangerous than a school hallway. He had been mopping near the trophy case when he heard it, a metallic clatter, faint but wrong for an empty building. Then came the footsteps, quick, purposeful, not belonging to children, not belonging to staff. He straightened slowly, listening. The hum of the lights seemed too loud. The mop handle felt too light in his grip. A cold trickle of awareness went down his spine. He turned his head toward the cafeteria, catching Lily's curious gaze. "Daddy," she whispered. Daniel pressed a finger to his lips. She nodded, small and obedient, and slid silently out of her chair to stand behind one of the tables. She knew her father didn't get scared easily. So if his voice dropped, if his eyes sharpened like this, something was wrong. A sudden thud came from the hallway doors. Lily gasped. Daniel's breath tightened. He stepped in front of her, not thinking, just reacting. Years of training buried under layers of normal life stirred awake with a sharp, painful snap. Then she said it, the words that ripped straight through him. "Daddy, please stop them." The doors burst open. 3 men, not boys, not pranksters, grown men dressed in dark tactical clothes, heavy boots, gloves. Even from this distance, Daniel saw the way they moved, confident, coordinated, dangerous. The first man had a crowbar. The second carried a thick canvas bag that clinked with metal. The third scanned the room with the cold accuracy of someone used to assessing threats. Daniel's entire body went still. "You picked the wrong night to be here," he said, voice low and steady. The first man grinned with a crooked, condescending smirk. "Relax, janitor. We just need what's in the principal's office. You stay quiet, we walk out, no trouble." Lily whimpered, and the third man's eyes flicked toward her. That was the mistake. Daniel didn't move because he wanted to. He moved because some part of him, the part he had sworn to bury, exploded to the surface. He swung the mop bucket forward, sending soapy water splashing into the first man's eyes. Before the crowbar wielder could react, Daniel stepped in, grabbed his wrist, twisted sharply, and drove his palm heel into the man's nose. The crack was wet and immediate. The man collapsed like a puppet whose strings had been cut. The second man lunged. He was bigger, bulkier, maybe stronger, but strength only mattered if you knew how to use it. Daniel ducked under the man's swing and drove his shoulder hard into the man's ribs. The bag fell with another metallic thud. The man staggered, gasping. Daniel didn't give him time to recover. 2 rapid strikes to the solar plexus, a sweep of the leg, and the man was on the floor choking for air. "Dad," Lily cried, but her voice was distant to him now, warped by adrenaline, stretching and warping like a sound heard underwater. Only the third man remained standing. He wasn't sloppy. He wasn't angry. He was calculating, measured. He pulled a knife from inside his jacket, short, fixed blade, probably military grade. He crouched into a stance that told Daniel this man knew exactly how to use it. Daniel stepped sideways, blocking Lily completely behind him. His heart pounded, but not with fear. With recognition. With a memory of sandstorms and gunfire and nights when every shadow held a threat. "You're no janitor," the man said quietly. Daniel didn't reply. The man lunged. Daniel moved with a speed he hadn't felt in years. He caught the man's wrist mid-slash, twisted upward, and slammed his elbow into the man's throat. The knife dropped. The man wheezed, stumbled, clawing at his windpipe. Daniel grabbed him by the collar, pivoted, and hurled him onto the tiled floor. The impact echoed like a gunshot in the empty cafeteria. Silence. The kind of silence that follows violence, the ringing kind, heavy and unreal. Lily ran to him, arms flung around his waist. Daniel held her close, breathing hard, trying to quiet the storm still raging inside him. He hadn't wanted her to ever see this part of him. The part that fought like a weapon instead of a man. "It's okay," he whispered, though he wasn't sure if it was. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911 with trembling fingers. As he spoke to the dispatcher, he knelt beside the third man, searching his jacket for identification, not out of curiosity, but out of dread. That was when he found it. A patch. Small, dark, stitched with an emblem he recognized from years ago. Not civilian. Not law enforcement. Not local. Not random. Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. He sat back on his heels, staring at the unconscious men sprawled on the cafeteria floor. They weren't burglars. They weren't here by chance. And if they were here, in this school, tonight, it meant someone had found him. Someone who knew who he really was. Someone who wanted something only he had. Lily tugged at his sleeve, her voice small and shaky. "Daddy, who were they?" Daniel swallowed, forcing steadiness into his voice. "People who shouldn't have been here," he said. "But they're not going to hurt you. Ever." But as he hugged her close, staring at the emblem in his hand, he knew something terrifying. This wasn't an isolated attack. This was an opening move. And his quiet life, his safe life, had just shattered. If you want, I can now. Check mark expand scene 2 to 1000 words. Check mark add emotional depth or more action. Check mark provide image prompts. Check mark write continuation chapters. Just tell me. Here is scene 2 expanded to -1000 words, without headings, exactly as you requested. The wail of distant sirens faded 15 minutes after the police arrived, but Daniel's pulse hadn't slowed. The officers had done what they always did, asked routine questions, documented the scene, took the unconscious men away. But even they seemed uneasy, glancing repeatedly at the patch Daniel had shown them before quietly suggesting it be turned over to higher authorities. Their voices betrayed them. They didn't know who those men were. They didn't want to know. By the time the police cars pulled out of the parking lot, the night had fallen into an unnatural hush. The kind that seemed to absorb sound instead of returning it. The kind that marked a change in the air. Daniel stood at the school's front entrance with Lily beside him, his arm wrapped protectively around her small shoulders. She clung to him the same way she had when she was younger, when the nightmares came and she shook until he held her. He felt her trembling now, but he also felt the weight of something else pressing down on him. Something colder, older, and far more familiar than fear. He had seen men with patches like that before, men who didn't operate under any official agency, but under the shadows cast by those agencies. Private, off the record, funded by someone whose name never appeared anywhere. These were the kinds of operators you only encountered when someone important wanted something done quietly. Which meant whoever sent them was not done. He lifted Lily into his arms and gently kissed the top of her head. "We're going home," he murmured. They never reached the car. A deep mechanical rumble rose in the distance, steady and low, like a wall of engines moving together. Daniel froze mid-step, his breath caught before he even turned. Headlights spilled around the far corner of the street, first 2, then 4, then dozens. A fleet of black SUVs rolled in a tight formation, disciplined, precise, slow enough to show they weren't hiding but fast enough to project intent. Not police, not local government, motorcade. Daniel's stomach tightened. This was no coincidence. This was a response. He set Lily down quickly. "Sweetheart, get behind me." She obeyed without hesitation, pressing against his back. The first SUV pulled to a stop directly in front of the school entrance, and the others fanned out in a smooth arc as if choreographed. The doors opened in unison, too synchronized to be anything but professional. Men in dark suits emerged, their movements quiet and efficient. They carried the posture of people trained to be invisible, yet unmistakably dangerous. Only one figure stood out. A tall woman stepped out of the lead vehicle. Her hair was silver, not from age, but because it suited her. Sharp, purposeful, she wore a long dark coat that didn't quite hide the body armor underneath. Her eyes, even at a distance, were focused, intelligent, and piercing in a way that made Daniel tense without meaning to. She approached him slowly, hands visible, movements deliberate. "Mr. Hale," she called out softly. Or should I say, Staff Sergeant Hale. Daniel felt Lily's grip tighten. I'm not military anymore, he said quietly. The woman stopped a few paces away, giving him and Lily space, an intentional signal of non-hostility. My name is Director Rowan. She nodded once toward the school behind him. We came as soon as we intercepted the emergency call. Daniel frowned. You intercepted it? Of course we did, Rowan replied calmly. Your name is flagged on several dormant lists. You might think you left your past behind, Mr. Hale, but your past never left you. Daniel shifted to keep Lily shielded. Why were those men here? Rowan glanced toward the parking lot, where ambulance crews were finishing loading the unconscious intruders. Those three, not simple criminals, as you already guessed. They belong to a rogue unit we've been tracking. Private contractors, off-grid, the kind of men who don't ask why they're sent, only who they're supposed to retrieve. A cold tremor ran through Daniel. Retrieve. Rowan's voice softened. They weren't sent for information. Daniel shook his head. No, you're wrong. Lily has nothing to do with any of this. Children are powerful leverage, Rowan said gently. You know that, and they know that. For a moment, Daniel felt the world tilt. Images from years ago, ruins, barricades, missions that went nightmarishly wrong, flashed painfully behind his eyes. Lily buried her face in his coat, sensing the shift in his breathing. Rowan took another step toward him, still careful. The project you were part of wasn't buried as deeply as you assumed. Someone out there believes you're still connected to it. And if they believe you're useful, they will come, in greater numbers, with greater force. I don't want any part of it, Daniel said through clenched teeth. I just want my daughter safe. And that is precisely why we are here, Rowan answered. She signaled an agent, who stepped forward holding a tablet. He tapped the screen and handed it to her. Rowan turned the tablet toward Daniel. A grainy video played, the hallway fight. Daniel taking down the three intruders with a precision and speed that a simple janitor should never possess. Lily watched the screen with wide eyes. Daniel wished she hadn't seen it. You're still capable, Rowan said quietly. More than capable, and that makes you visible to people you never wanted to see again. Daniel looked away, jaw tight, heart pounding. What do you want from me? He asked. Rowan shook her head. Tonight, nothing. You're not under arrest. You're not being recruited. You're not being forced into anything. Her voice lowered. But you need to accept what has happened. You and your daughter are no longer invisible. And those men were only the opening act. Daniel felt Lily's arms wrap around him tighter. He rested a hand on her head, trying to steady himself. What happens now? He asked. Rowan's eyes softened, though her posture remained sharp as a blade. Now, we leave you with a warning. And a choice. She stepped closer, close enough that her voice dropped into something meant only for him. When they come, and they will, ask yourself whether you want to face them alone, or with people who understand the enemy you're dealing with. With that, she stepped back. Her agents moved toward the vehicles with silent precision. Doors opened, engines ignited, the motorcade rolled away, leaving Daniel standing in the cold night air with his daughter trembling against him. The silence returned, heavier than before. Daddy, Lily whispered, are we in danger? Daniel looked down at her, brushing her hair back gently. Not as long as I'm here. But inside, he knew the truth with terrifying clarity. This was only the beginning. And the life he had built, the quiet life, the safe life, had just ended. If you want, I can. Checkmark continue with scene 3. Checkmark write the next chapter where the attackers return. Checkmark add emotional depth, action, or mystery. Checkmark provide image prompts for both scenes. Just tell me.